Okay, now we're on the second part, students. We've got the tomato part ready. We're going to leave it here waiting for us, and we're going to go ahead and do this, the leaves here. And if we were at school, we would do this little pinked edge that finishes the edge so it doesn't fray, because it looks really fancy and cute. And then we would stitch it on the machine like this. This is what I have you guys do when you make them at school. But since we're not at school and you don't have pinking shears, these are pinking shears that cut that zigzag edge like this. And they're super sharp, like sewing shears that cut a zigzag. Now, you could possibly have some like scrapbooking scissors that do that, but I don't know if they will cut fabric. A lot of them usually aren't sharp enough to cut a lot of fabric. So we're gonna take the little green leaf top that we made, and we're gonna take the pins out of it and take the pattern off. And you should have cut 2 of these together because it's easier to sew them when they're together, and then it also makes them double-sided, so if you're looking at it and it flaps back, it looks nicer. It looks more finished and it looks better. So then we're gonna take this, and you're gonna use another needle. Oh, I think I used my wrong needle on that. I'm gonna snitch this needle because it's got a bigger eye, and I'll rethread the needle. I'll rethread the needle on that when I get back to that. And then I gave you some embroidery floss like this that I gave it to you to do these little green leaves, and I made it, I chose it so it matched the green. So you're gonna take your little piece of embroidery floss. Now embroidery floss has 6 little threads inside of it. And we usually don't sew with all 6 unless we're doing something really heavy. So for this little tomato, 6 threads is too heavy. So we are gonna take 3 threads in each hand, and we're gonna pull it apart and just use 3 at a time. If you don't do that, you may not have enough thread to finish this assignment. Now, it always tangles. Can you see it? So I put it in my mouth, and I pull it tight with some tension, and I pull it with both hands, and then it doesn't tangle. And when you get down to the end, sometimes you have to let it loose and grab it a couple times so that you get the 2 threads pulled, or the 2 sets of threads pulled apart 3 at a time. And if it gets tangled, just pull it apart. And if you have to, this one usually doesn't do this, but every once in a while it will knot up, and then you might have to cut it off, but it looks like it worked. It just pulled through. Then you keep the other one, and you try to keep it from tangling, and you set it aside so when you're done, when your one thread's used up, you can use this piece. So now I'm going to thread this needle, and it's a little bit hard to thread because you're trying to put 3 threads through the eye. So choose your needle that has the biggest eye, and then lick it, and so that it pulls all those 3 threads together, and then cut it off and thread that needle. You see how close I am to that? It's easier usually if it's really close. So then you're going to straighten it out so it's not tangled, and you're going to do a blanket stitch like you learned how to do. And I'm going to do a quilter's knot again. I put the long end of the thread on my finger, and I make a circle with it. So there's a circle, and the short end's right there. And you don't use the short end, you use the long end, and then you wrap it away from you on the needle about 3 or 4 times so you have a good wrap. Then you hold those wraps, and you let them loosen up in your fingers enough to get over the eye, and then you pull those wraps all the way down the thread to the bottom, and it makes a knot. Then you're going to do just like the tutorial on the blanket stitch tutorial, and you're going to hide the knot up inside there. And once you do that, I'm going to put a couple of pins in to hold that so that it won't slip. And I don't want too many pins because the pins tend to catch your thread. So then I'm going to make that first stitch like she did on the tutorial. And go around, and before it comes up, you stick your thread into that loop. And that's your first stitch. Then you're going to take even stitches from the edge and even stitches in width. And you're going to, every time you're going to catch that thread in it so that it makes that blanket stitch. And you're going to go all the way around all these little leaves, making this blanket stitch, and it does a little edge finish that acts the same way as this pinked edge. And we're going to do the same thing on your bookmark, on the edge of your bookmark. Now the rest of the kids are doing their bookmarks on the machines, and they're doing a zigzag edge finish with the machine all the way around the edges of their projects. And you're going to do these little hands, this little hand stitch on 2 projects to learn how to hand sew. And then we'll do other things. We'll do the back stitch on your little button bag to sew it together, and it'll make a nice little project. So you're going to do this all the way around. When you're all the way around, then watch the next tutorial.